Excited to be here. I say that every day, must be true. And with that said, I've got one of my favorite colleagues on LinkedIn and a very good friend and someone you really should get to know, Karl Dakin. Karl has his show on Tuesdays, has his daily newsletter, has a weekly newsletter, and is considering another live stream show in the future. So Karl's definitely a rising star. Time to get with him, and especially if you're aligned. With that said, chat's wide open. We depend on chat to make us relevant and give you some great takeaways that you can apply immediately after the show. And the word of the day is collaboration. So get your thoughts around that. Love to hear them. Love to hear what you think of this collaboration and any other relevant questions you may have. Glad to address them. With that said, I want to turn it over to Karl. Karl can give you a quick update. He's really a fast track guy who's doing all kinds of interesting projects. So, Karl, time to share.
Good morning, John. Thank you for having me on the program. Always enjoy being a guest and having these types of conversations. The word of the day being collaboration. This is kind of near and dear to my heart and to my pocketbook. So I'm going to talk about it maybe from a couple different directions. But for those who don't know me, what I do is I act as a coach in helping individuals, organizations, communities raise funding. And every time I take on one of these projects, it's kind of like a start from scratch project where we start with nothing and then we have to build a foundation, which is in most cases will look like a form of collaboration. So that's going to be what we're going to talk about. And it's necessary to create a relationship between the person looking for funding and the people who have the funding. When they come to me, they've already generally gone through friends and family. So that form of collaboration has been tested and vetted, and it's now in the rearview mirror. And now they need to reach out to people they generally don't know, but for some reason might part with their hard-earned money and give it to them for what they're trying to do. And an investment is a collaboration. It's two people who say they want to achieve a common goal, which is for a small business or a community project to succeed. Now, they're both going to contribute resources. They're both going to look to get something out of it down the road, which may be a return on investment and appreciation of their dollars. It may be impact, where they create a positive social consequence in the community, or some combination of that. And so at the very beginning, what we're looking for is saying, hey, we have two people who don't know each other, who need to suddenly get married, and they need to work together positively to cause something to happen. But so many people don't understand this relationship, this one-on-one. And then we get into the larger groups where we're saying, well, one investor may not be enough, or one source of funding may not be enough. So we may need hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. So I was in Chicago last week. I was a speaker at Super Crowd Chicago, put on by Devin Thorpe, talking about investment crowdfunding. And this is where everybody, not just the wealthy, but everybody, and I use the word in the full term there, has a chance to invest in a local business, someone that they may know, someone where they may shop, someone they may do business with. And the changes in the law still aren't fully realized, because the people who now have a chance to invest don't understand that they also can collaborate with everywhere that they buy stuff. And so we're trying to communicate that, but it's been a real challenge to see how that occurs. So as I enter into these kinds of projects, I typically recruit a team of people who represent all the skills that the small business or the community project may not have on board in-house. And we try to fill the gaps. We try to bring expertise, outside experience, contacts, whole 9 yards to the table. And so there are levels of collaboration that are taking place. There's my team who is working with the client. There is the client who is trying to work with all their new investor candidates and investors. And my approach to this is to look to stakeholders who all benefit from the success of the business or the project, because they benefit if the company benefits, and therefore they make a better investor candidate than somebody that is just around looking for an extra buck. So we end up sometimes forming communities within and around the business, which includes vendors, suppliers, resellers, customers, social cause, local community people, and so on. So now we're talking layers of collaboration. So you can see why I love the word, because it is near and dear to me to get something going. So it's interesting, and as I posted today in my instant funding newsletter, sometimes when I try to put a team together, we have challenges in collaborating because not everybody understands what role they're going to play. They don't understand their responsibility. They may not be accountable for things that we all thought they were going to do. And this basically leaves a weakness in the team as we try to get stuff going. So, right now I have one project where the ball keeps can keeps getting kicked down the road. We're not moving, and this is starting to incur costs. That's why I wrote the article today that no decision is a decision. And I quoted you and Beverly from your show yesterday, so you got tagged on that. I'm working with another group called, which I will name because I'm happy, called RCI Community Funds. And this is a group of 5 guys who have decided that we want to provide funding to underserved communities to create a new pathway, a new link, a new combination of raising capital in a way that a community that has been ignored or missed or fallen behind can catch up and revitalize itself. And in this group, everybody just seems like we're reading each other's minds. We are like the hand that fits in the glove. Everything just keeps moving, and we keep surprising each other because we go, well, we should do this next. Well, I've already done that. Okay, fine. Then we keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. So it's been just a really fun adventure, and we're just getting ready to raise some seed funding into that particular project. So to your basic question about collaboration, yes, I think I understand the word. I try to form collaborations at multiple levels because to me, engaging with other people in a way that benefits people within the group in the collaboration is heart and soul to making things happen.
Wow, that sure is a good overview of collaboration. It brings so many good ideas to my mind, because really what you're saying and what I'm starting to appreciate is the co-part of collaboration. And co usually means some kind of symbiotic relationship where together everybody brings something, everybody's somewhat dependent on that other party or has an expectation of that party coming together with them to make it as complete and as valuable as possible. But then with co-collaboration, you get collateral collaboration where I'm collaborating with Karl very strongly on a consistent basis, which then affects his collaborations directly. So the circle continues to get bigger, and relationships that you have built and have are so important to bring people into the circle, because even if they're not a direct investor or someone looking for financing, they're starting to meet other people who are part of the circle, maybe create some knowledge share, some ideas, and you never know that co-collaborators could turn into collaborators, right? So there's a whole element, and I guess the key is to be very aware of the chemistries, of the give and take, because it's not if someone's doing 90% and someone's doing 10. It's
We're doing this.
or zero, and that's where collaborations either thrive or die. Is somebody stopped keeping up, someone stopped responding in a quality way, and it makes the other person question the relationship, their involvement. So there's so much to it, and I think that's why having a professional like Karl on your team makes so much sense, because everybody should focus on their core competency, another CO word, and allow experts and people who are more objective, possibly have a little bit more feel for the marketplace, are in there every day doing this. And I think too many people try to major in the minors where they could save a little time, they could save a little money, but it's all little things. And little things don't always get into big things. And plus, how you collaborate with the people who invest in you, whether it's money or time or effort, is going to have a good measurement against strangers who may want to come together on the team or play a significant role. With that, let me recognize some of the audience. Dean is here. I've known Dean since I started the program. Dean was an everyday participant. Fabulous guy, has an incredible story of survival and success. Has gone through all kinds of challenges and has come through with flying colors. So thanks for being here, Dean. The potato is his symbol, as you can see on the comment and in his logo. And it has to do from an earlier day when someone referred to him in that manner relative to what he was doing. And I guess Dean liked it. He was in the restaurant equipment industry, still is. He goes to Chicago once in a while for the show. Carrie's here. What would a day without a Carrie joke be? What do you call a really fancy stick? A Louis baton. I get it, instead of baton. And obviously Carrie knows Dean. Nice to have brothers in arms here today. So, looking at how you've grown and evolved over time, how are you starting to see collaboration in a way of creating better, stronger bonds for people to start off with, and encouraging that familiarity or awareness of what everybody's role is, what the potential for people providing time, effort, and resources? I think that would be a good topic.
Starting a collaboration is its own adventure, because you are working hopefully towards some common benefit. It might be that in this case, a client needs help and they want to raise funding, or I'm working with a community that is basically just looks like they got left out from every good luck drawing that's ever been held. And you're saying, well, is this something that can be fixed? And that starts the conversation of what can we do by working together that we can't do separately. That's part of the reason for collaborating, is that in doing anything, you have to look outside at yourself, have to look back at yourself and say, can I do this by myself? And the answer may be yes, but can I do it better, quicker, faster if I work with someone else? And in some cases, you simply can't get there from here. There's all the time we see partnering between an inventor, a creative guy who's very mechanical, very engineering oriented, and a business person who understands sales and books and records and all those kinds of things, where they pair them together because they're each missing something that's necessary for success. But when we carry this to a larger level, this is where we start talking about words like collaboration, community, all starting with a CO, as you put it, because they are larger endeavors. There are things that can't be done with just 2 people or 10 people. It might require hundreds of people to get behind it. And there's going to be hundreds or thousands or maybe tens of thousands, maybe millions of people will benefit. I remember there was an inventor who had worked with a water pump in Africa, and he was looking for his next invention that he could bring that was low tech, that would have broad dissemination. And he says, I'm looking for something that can help 10 million people. And everybody kind of gasped, like, wow, that's a pretty admirable goal to start with 10 million. He says, well, if I can't help 10 million out of the gate, I'm never going to get to 7 billion worldwide. And I thought, that's a really good observation, that certain things people talk about, well, everybody can benefit. Well, okay, when you start a collaboration of 7 billion people, then you're really on top of your game. I'm not there yet. So I'm still working to learn the skills and capabilities of putting that together. But there are skills. Everybody can learn to collaborate. It's a matter of understanding who you are and how you create benefit and how the other person creates benefit. And then you put it together as 1 + 1 = 3. And if so, then you're on the right track. But sometimes the relationships are challenged because of lack of resources. Sometimes the problem is so great that it seems like you can't fix it. It's like a perpetual poverty that you see in some developing countries. It's like, does it have to be this way, or can we actually make a difference? So as you look at a collaboration, then what I find is it's like playing a brand new game, but we don't know the rules to the game. So we have to kind of figure out what every player position is going to be. So we have a third base and we have a pitcher, but do we have a quarterback and a pitcher? Those kinds of things. And once everybody kind of understands what they're doing individually and how they contribute to the collective, to the collaboration, then we start seeing this energy that it occurs at that level, this capability. And the larger the problem, the larger the collaboration. Typically, there's a direct correlation. If it's a major problem, like turning a community around, there'll probably be hundreds of people involved in this. Every one of these projects that we're preparing to help by putting together a community fund that can light the match, can start the reversal of the trend economically. And so I'm so happy with this current team of 5, but we're already talking about the part of the strength of our group is we know so many people who know us so well that if we say, hey, come on down, they'll be there tomorrow, not next week and not 2 years from now. And we can plug and play their projects into our project, just kind of like insert them, and everything will grow astronomically. So we may know a few hundred people who can come, at our call, and then this allows us to move quicker, better, faster. So we don't need as much money. We don't need to bring so much to the front end of this. We can simply kind of push everything over and let it cascade in the right direction. So I'm really enjoying the development of the team, but we're already talking to people about blowing this up to the next level of collaboration, so that we end up with lots of people. And then we're going to do an investment crowdfunding campaign for each community, where we may need 1,000, 2,000 people to be part of our collaboration to bring the funding, so we can light the match and start rebuilding the communities.
Well, that's terrific. And, want to recognize Kelly, who's here. Kelly is a big fan of the show, but more importantly, was instrumental and essential for making this show what it is today, making it so much better. Kelly has the Awesome Journey on Tuesdays with Christy Howard. I recommend you watch it. It's so empowering and really great stories with great people. Kelly also has accepted a position for Wheelchairs for Warriors, which is significant, and want to applaud Kelly. And actually, Kelly was able to kind of secure that position by having the leader of that organization on her show months ago. And just through getting to know each other and understanding and supporting each other, things have opened up. So thank you, Kelly. Carrie says hello to Kelly. And by the way, Kelly, Dean is here too. And I know Kelly and myself really have had some quality communications with Dean. I think we all helped each other. So thank you again, Kelly. And actually, Kelly will be here tomorrow with Jason Gerardo and with Dave Snell, great members of our cohort group. And, another maybe we should have a show that says all words that start with CO. And then we can have the pick of the litter. But it's just interesting how you come up with a word and all of a sudden other words like that word or similar come to mind. So sometimes.
You mean like Cohen, like Don Cohen?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like looking for, I remember when the kids were small, used to look for Volkswagens, right? And there's a yellow bug, there's a red bug, and it's the same thing. Which really, got a big Dean here. Kelly's a big fan of Dean, and knows, like I say, we have history, and that's what's so fun. And you don't know that going in, but you do see that looking back, is the time frame for a cycle to develop. And there's, first of all, familiarity and awareness. Then there's some level of connection, could be just connecting on LinkedIn, could be having a call. And that sets the foundation for being a guest on a show, introducing somebody to someone, and that continues to build. And too many people are looking from the starting line to the finish line with not thinking about the middle. They just want to get to where they want to get and never learn how they got there so they can replicate it and duplicate it. Because it's really how you deal and respond to your marketplace or your environment. And pretty soon you start seeing some rising stars sooner than other people, because you're focused on the future and you're also focused on yourself, right? And yesterday we had a quality show, me and Beverly, and it came through that heartfelt is better than brain thought. And if things just resonate with you immediately, the first perception usually is the strongest. And you say, hey, there's fertile ground here. There's room we can grow and build, but we need to get to know each other so we don't make assumptions, so we don't go into relationships that aren't Most people just want to keep being the big shot and the leader of the band instead of being in the band itself with other band members. And what's good for you is good for people like you. What you respond to is usually what other people like you will respond to. So how you want to be treated, and semantics is important. There's so many elements, but there's a benefit to learning early that it's not going to work. And too many people just force whatever they have in front of them until they actually have what they really want. And then they end up spending a lot of time trying to fix people, trying to do much more than they have to. And what they've done is they've excluded the from it. They've just absolved somebody of their responsibility and said, don't worry, I'll carry you. But how far can you carry somebody, and why would you? So, a lot of these searches for answers creates even more questions. And having that time and slowing things down in a way to let it formulate. Too many people guess the puzzle before they had a chance to buy some vowels or to get some more insight, because it's almost, as if you were hunting, but you only have one shot, right? When are you going to take that shot? When something first appears? And I'm not really a hunter, but wouldn't you want to get as close as you could, be as confident as you could before you pull that trigger? And build on success, and also understand the process, because the systems and the process are so vital for continuing to sustain success. And not only that, but build quality experiences. One should always ask themselves, because I always do, is if there was no money consideration, how would I deal with this? So money isn't exactly jading you. So if I was just pure, natural, organic in what I'm doing, how would that present itself? And I think, that makes a lot of sense. And then if there is a money consideration, well, that's a premium. But at the basic level, you should say, if I wasn't doing this for money, or I didn't have to do this, what would I do? And you'll find out if you do that, you'll end up making more money than you could have made if you had already planned the whole approach in advance. And it's not anymore when you're not fully disclosing your intent or your purpose, and if it's different than what's acknowledged or received, you're going to end up with a conflict down the road. But the other big thing, people want to know, when did you know something, and when did I know something that you knew? That's always a key consideration, right? Because, everything eventually comes out. And collaboration is really another word based on communication, right? Another CO. So if you can tie collaboration with communication, and really a little bit of empathy, a little bit of sensitivity to say, well, how are you feeling about these things now? We've been at this 90 days. What's been a positive for you? What's been a challenge for you? So I can better understand and get back to that 50-50 co-relationship versus accepting things, not understanding things, going with just blind faith. Again, it's not a very encouraging, stimulating environment at that point. So, Karl, I know that you're an expert at what you do, and sometimes maybe that becomes a challenge because of perception, right? Where people think, well, he's the expert, so he must know, so I'm not going to ask that question, or I'm not going to add something to it. So how are you more inviting when you're dealing with collaborators?
Well, I think that appearances on this show is an example of where I try to share who I am, how I think, how I go about looking at things, whatever that description may be. But um, a lot of times you're trying to do everything in a hurry. And one of the challenges to forming a collaboration is, how quickly can I create a relationship? How quickly is that relationship going to solidify so that I can lean on it, or I can anticipate reasonably mutual benefit or reciprocal benefit, so I can go out and start another relationship, because I got to be in a hurry. This is something we get into in crowdfunding. That's the challenge, where you say, you go up to someone you've never met before, you stick out your hand and you say, I need money. Well, that's not going to generally get the kind of response you're looking for. But if I go up to someone and I say, I've got something I think you might benefit, you might be of help to you, then you've started the conversation talking about the other person and the fact you appreciate and respect a relationship because you're starting with them and not about yourself. So this is part of what I try to do, what I try to teach all my clients to do, that too often when they're pitching for money, it's like they're standing in a soapbox screaming, look at me, I need money, look at me. And you're like, that's interesting, not very helpful. Because everybody else also could probably say the same thing. So we're not differentiating ourselves, and you're not forming the relationship. So when you do a crowdfund, you say, I want to raise $100 from an investor, but my goal is to raise $100,000. Then I need 1,000 investors. And that's 1,000 brand new sudden relationships. How quickly can you form a relationship? And this is part of the art, part of the science that we're trying to evolve, where you make a shout out to people you don't know in a way that causes them to go, oh, he's talking to me, about me, for me, and I should pay attention. Now, they still may not decide this is the right thing to do, but at least we're going to have a conversation which has a higher probability of success than simply standing on a soapbox and say, look at me, give me money. Um, And yet too much of what's out there, we emphasize the solo entrepreneur, the lone wolf entrepreneur, the hey, look what they did by themselves entrepreneur. And you're like, yeah, but either that story's not true, which is generally my belief, or they left a whole bunch of details out, which means the story's still not true. Or something happened that was, I will say, not a repeatable. And I'm all into repeatable templates. If I can make it happen 10 times in a row, I'm much happier than doing it once and then not being able to succeed again with the same model. So I'm spending a lot of my time right now building my community of other people who work with me or like me, they're allies, we're selling to the same client, different services that help them raise funding. And I had a guy contact me I hadn't talked to in 10 years yesterday off of my newsletter. And he had a client who was stuck, needed money. They kind of painted themselves in a corner. And in a very few minutes, my background with his knowledge of client, and we figured out a couple solutions to probably get him out of the hole. And I was happy to help. And as you were raising the question about getting paid versus not getting paid, this is a challenge I think we all get caught up in, where we start translating, talking to everybody in terms of money or how much, and I told some of my clients once, I said, I'm going to break you of the habit of talking about money and profits and ROI. I want you to describe everything in terms of outcomes, in terms of number of hamburgers. And we made them substitute. Well, if I do that, then that's worth 5 hamburgers. And they had to do this new neural translation of what is success measured by? How do you look at it? And in my mind, the more relationships we have, the better off we are. But I was talking to somebody about this community fund that we're putting together. And one of the questions a guy asked me, he says, well, what's going to be your rate of return? I says, we're designing it to make a profit. So the rate of return isn't that important. This is back to what you say. If you say, well, if I'm worried about profit first, I may have left out all the other good stuff that could have come with this. But if I worry about all the good stuff that can come from this, and I design it to make a profit, so it's economically sustainable, the rate of return will be there because we built it into the system. But because we're not focused on it, that doesn't mean that we're going to fail. That doesn't mean that we're not going to, do it what they wanted to do. But when you start talking about your return on investment out of the gate, to me, this is a red flag to me that this person is maybe thinking about themselves more than me or what I'm trying to do. And we may not be able to collaborate. And now I've got Cohen stuck in my mind. So that's going through my mind for the rest of the day. But there's another word that the collaboration, the cohort that I'm in with you and everybody else, we've got more words coming out. So we're stuck.
Well, I think you bring a great point up, but it also adds another word, which is consistency. And when you're talking about templates, then you have something that you can replicate and stay consistent with. And actually, we've got Jason with us who says, good morning to all. Templates are a great idea, Karl. Replicate success in the easiest way. And I think that's so important. Jason will be joining me, Kelly, and Dave tomorrow. And if you don't know Jason, he's an excellent colleague and LinkedIn connection. And I would use this time to reach out to everybody who's commenting, build connections with them and maybe collaborations. I think that's so important. And sometimes, when I'm thinking about why do you do it, sometimes there is more to it than the money. Maybe it's the money and something else. And sometimes, you have to look at something and say, in order for this to get off the ground, I'm going to have to do more than I usually do. Because if I don't, it's just not going to come together right. And maybe you come back and find yourself in the situation you want. But also there's some altruism too. Sometimes it's a point of, yeah, I'm happy to give back, and is it justified? And I think that's the key. If 5 people can get helped and I can help them, versus asking for something and maybe never getting it, never helping them, and never having another opportunity. And a lot of it has to do with staging. Who goes first? What goes first? How do you prioritize your needs? What are things that are short-term and necessary? What are things that are long-term and maybe get some consideration down the road? But what can you do with what you have at the present time? People get too lost in the fog of this will grow into this and this will grow into this, and all they see is the final result. And they don't understand the legwork. They don't understand the learning curve. They don't understand the adjustments along the way. And I think that's so important, is getting like-minded people who are flexible, who are teachable, who are changeable. Because without that, you're going to have to work with their mold or work around it. And a lot of times it doesn't follow well. The other thing is how people relate to you and communicate with you. Even if you can read through it and understand it and allow for it, that's the same individual that you're going to be going out with and sharing things with other people. And how they present themselves, how they talk, how they consider others is going to either be a tailwind or a headwind. Alan's here. I haven't seen Alan in a bit. It'll be a great day when true collaboration is the norm. I see a whirlwind of activity in the near future. Well, anytime you have social media, 1 billion people registered on LinkedIn and many more on Facebook and YouTube and everything else, the opportunities are endless. It's how you choose and how you approach what you choose or who you choose to get the ball rolling. And I know, talking with Erwin the other day, he made a quantum leap by having a pre-qualifying survey go out, right? And he probably saved so many other people so much time, including himself, because if it's never going to be from the start, why try to make it what it can't be? Maybe you can get through it, but when you got 1 billion prospects, people pre-qualify themselves in advance in a lot of cases by, like Karl said, if someone says, I need money, can you get me some? That's a far different approach than following you, commenting, getting that top of mind awareness, because it's not as much how you approach somebody, but who are you when you're approaching that person? If you're a complete stranger, and if you're just talking to anybody with a pulse, right, or who can fog a mirror, you're not giving anybody any respect. But if you say to somebody, hey, Karl, I love your newsletter. I've been seeing you on live streaming. I really appreciate what you do, but more importantly, who you are. Well, how long did that take? About 30 seconds? And now you kind of open the door. Well, hey, this person has put some thought, some time, some effort into getting to know me first, has already justified why they're making this approach. And I think you do somebody a disservice when you try to create the answer before they've had a chance to answer, right? Here's what I need. Here's how I need you to do. And it's like, well, maybe I don't do that, or maybe something else, but why put somebody in a yes-no situation? Because if it's going to be a true collaboration, it can't be monosyllable-ish, whatever that word is. Sometimes I feel if you get 80% of the word, that's enough to keep the sentence going, or you get dogged down in definitions. And I think the other part, and it doesn't always get mentioned, is being somebody that's fun. Being somebody that can look through things and still keep a positive attitude, because you're going to run into bumps on the road. You're going to run into doors that are closed on you. And how do you get back on your feet? But encourage people, because I think another key word is leadership. Are you the person who could reframe something very quickly? Packaging and presentation is so important. Sometimes the door closes, it makes another door more attractive, because sometimes you have 3 choices. If one disqualifies itself, now you focus on the 2. And also having a good foundation means a place you can move back to. and then build from. And that's why little things done right and being specific initially and hitting the lowest hanging fruit is so important, because some people are only believers when they see results. So by saying is, what can we accomplish first that will impress enough people to stick with us, to trust us, to have a little more patience? Because, you know, you want everybody on the same boat, happy as can be, but also understanding that you're okay with accepting things that aren't what was planned. A plan is just an idea and a hope, right? Until you actually go to work, you know, and see what the marketplace is. I know that Karl does a lot of market research and awareness, where it's not just, I was on a train, came up with this idea, it's going to be great. Well, you know, maybe not, but, you know, I hate to bet my life savings on just an idea that came to mind on a train one day. And I think discipline makes so much sense. Too many people are, I'm into this, oh, let's get into that, right? And then you're moving around the table and nothing's ever going to get done, because it's like the new idea takes prominence over everything else. So I think facilitation is so important. Along with that, moderation, bringing people together, because, you know, especially what Karl was mentioning at the beginning with, let's say, 5 individuals. You may have it perfect with 1 or 2, but a couple are lagging. A couple aren't exactly as inviting or accepting as others. How do you balance that? How do you make people aware of it? And the best way is to have more demand, right? So if you're going to market and you're talking to 10 quality investment groups, you can be more discriminating and particular, you know, where if you're just one, it's a last chance, take it or leave it. It's not a good position for anybody, versus, hey, I need 3 other people I'm going to be talking to, I'll get back to you, you know. And then you want people to feel like this can be important, this can be significant. But I think what Karl also, you know, brings up is, who are you learning from? What I've learned from these shows is I've gotten so much from Kelly, from Karl, from Beverly, week in and week out, because things are kind of tested. You come up with a thought or an idea, you put it out there, and then someone comes back with a response or a reaction. Geez, that's something I didn't consider. That allows me to make an adjustment, but it also validates, right? When 2, 3, 4 people keep saying, yeah, you're on the right track, I love what you're doing, and here's why. Well, that's encouraging. You come out of the gate with tremendous confidence. Everybody says, what are you thinking? You know, are you really aware of what could be? And sometimes you really get surprised in an important way. So Karl, you know, this whole balancing act around collaboration is pretty important, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about doing anything new, and this gets into people who want some degree of security. It's natural, it's inherent, it's a good thing. But if you don't try something new, then you're pretty much stuck with where you're at. And if you're happy with where you're at, if I call it a fat and happy person, then, you know, they're not going to be taking risks. They're not going to be doing things new, because they've achieved a zone of comfort, a zone of safety, and they're good with that. But I generally work with people who always have the entrepreneurial concept that maybe it could be better. And in order to find out, you have to experiment. And experimentation means you may fail. In fact, the odds are high that you're going to fail. Not everything works. And the first time you try something, you probably didn't do it in the best possible fashion. So we're always working with this concept, and starting a relationship is just one more form of experimentation. I met someone, they look like they might be someone I could work with. I have to examine, experiment, test this relationship to see if it's going to work. And so we may start off the conversation talking about stuff to see if we agree on something, and maybe it's supporting a community. And that may be all we need. That may be the sole nexus we need to work together and align on something. In other cases, if I'm going to be on a team together, then I'm probably looking deeper. I'm probably looking into what gets them up in the morning, how they treat other people, how they do their business, those kinds of things. But it's still an experiment, because until we kind of move into it, we don't know if it's going to work. And if we don't reach out to create a new relationship, we never will. Relationships don't just, forced upon us, where you're saying, okay, Karl, here's 1,000 people, you got to know them all tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. So right now, through my newsletter, through my own show, and appearing on your show, I'm telling people I'm open to new relationships. I'm looking for more people who may want to do some of the same things I'm doing, who may want to see some of the same outcomes I would like to achieve. But not every relationship is perfect, and some may be in a high 80 percentile of most things work, and some may be in that low 20 percentile where you're like, I'm not sure this relationship deserves maintenance. So we have to be cognizant of the fact that everything new is an experiment. It requires testing, verification, and we love to practice. But one of the points I was trying to make to someone, they go, "Why should I hire you?" And I said, "Have you ever done this before?" And they go, "No." I said, "I've done it several hundreds of times." So ordinarily, I would tell you, you need to practice to become perfect. But I've been practicing for a long time, so I don't have to practice as much to get to where I want to go. And that's why you would hire me. And they thought, okay, that makes sense. I said, now you may not know what you're doing, so maybe you should follow my lead instead of telling me how to do something that you contacted me about. It is strange from time to time where somebody says, I'm going to raise money, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going, then why are you talking to me? I said, you want me to bless what you're doing? Because I probably won't. It's unfortunate that most people come at it with an unclear concept of how to raise funding. And sometimes you have to scrape everything they've done and start over. Or they're in the middle of a campaign, they're saying it's not working. And you're going, okay, well, I'm not surprised that you're talking to the wrong people, you're saying the wrong thing, or people don't even see you, so you're invisible. So it's no way they can invest. We try to fix all those things, but that's about collaboration, communities, having relationships with enough people that somebody will want to step forward and work with you, or everybody wants to step forward and work with you. But you have to be thinking of what they want. You can't be thinking about what you want to get there.
Yeah, those are great points. And another code word that comes to mind is compression. Is how do you bring things down to a point? I know in the past, and I've been successful doing venture capital, private equity, finances, family trust situations I've been involved in. And it's about clarity, which is, when you looked for VC, some people were at a higher level of financing. Some people were industry related. They only do retail and maybe wholesale or industrial. And that gives you a clue, compresses it down. So just like we talked about Irwin having a checklist, well, if people say, here's what I'm into, believe them. And at the same time, go with the people who do. The other element is what other people can bring to the table that's above and beyond what the initial intention is, right? And that could be, yeah, I can help you raise money, but I'm really great at reading people. I'm really good at qualifying people. So if you're looking at hiring a CFO, I could help you on the interview. I might even help you in the search, having a LinkedIn network and having accessibility. So it's measuring up to the basics and then saying, here's a laundry list of accessories that I bring that could distinguish and differentiate me and us. Because the thing is why would you add somebody if it doesn't make both parties stronger and bring them into an advantageous situation? And I think really being thoughtful in words, not overselling, not overtelling, allowing someone into the conversation, right, would lend itself to better collaboration. The other thing is, we talk about reading people, you could say, how many books have you read? Well, how many people have you read? Because as you do get older, you say, well, Jim is just like Tom was 15 years ago. This looks like a repeat performance with a different flavor and maybe a different name, but I've seen this show before. And you can jump really to, maybe it's a great show. Maybe you just say, hey, this is worth my investment. And sometimes you have to make an investment in the person looking for an investment, right? Here's how I'm going to fund this relationship in the beginning. And really being able to, express to others that I know where you are. I know what you're thinking. I know how you're feeling going into this, especially if it's brand new. And then you could say, is that correct? Does that relate to you? And maybe it now is Mary that they remind you of instead of Tom, and you start to adjust to it. But I think being with someone who's a little more progressive, little more dynamic, little bit more has their hand on the pulse of the marketplace, is out there every day talking to people, like Karl's traveling to conferences, working with universities, so it's not just one line and that's it. It's taking the benefit, but also to do better, you have to be better. You have to get more knowledgeable. You have to have more experience. And I think it's, that's key. And if you are, and you can get top of mind awareness and elevate yourself above the crowd instead of compete in the crowd. And that's usually what typically LinkedIn was before live streaming, is you can only talk so loud with a post. You can only get so in the moment with a post. And usually people then get ostentatious with their posts. They're trying to get attention. They're screaming louder. They're complaining more, and that's how they're standing out. They're getting awareness, but it's not really something that's going to build. And even that has had that potential. But if you can fast track it and have a net that is specific to the audience you're trying to attract, it'll be significant. And you never know that maybe there's more than you know. And that would be fun, right? So it's not just fill out your dance card, but it's like, hey, there's so many more dances I wasn't aware of, so many more partners that I could work with. And really, people like doing business with people they like. And that's just the truth. I've had relationships where a lot of people would give me opportunities, and I would always say, why am I so lucky? Why did you pick me, without trying to be offish to them? And most cases is like, you're a man of integrity. You keep your word. I could have got a better deal, but they would have been cherry pickers, or they would have returned half of it when it didn't sell. But if I know a deal's a deal, then price isn't as important as consistency, because I don't want to go out and look for a seller every day. Plus, why? And I think if people can answer the why, you could say, I can understand that. It may be a good time. It may not be a good time. But then there's always people who right off the bat, they turn you off, and it just right there, I can't overcome that. I had a gentleman on a Zoom the other day that kept eating like plums and picking his teeth with his fingers, and I'm trying to, understand, is that person that hungry? I could see eating one plum or two plums, but during the whole Zoom call, and then picking her teeth on top of it, it's like, and the person's, old enough to know better, or old enough not to know better, whatever the case, but it just says, hey, I can't accept that. And sometimes it is just a feeling, a sensitivity. But, getting back to what we originally started with, how does your heart talk to you? How do you genuinely feel the moment something happens before your mind gets a chance to justify it or whatever? So, Karl, looks like you've really had a lot of experience talking to a lot of people in a lot of meetings, seeing a lot of success stories happen, see a lot of success stories not happen. And I think it's really, like I always say, I always learn more on the way down than I learned on the way up, right? Because,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
absolutely. And to some degree, it's part of the experimentation we were mentioning earlier that I can look at something, I can read a book, I can be told how to do it. I may even have been told how to do it by an expert, but the first time I do it, I'm going to only perform so well. It's not like I'm going to mimic it perfectly the first time out of the box. Practice is necessary. But when you try something that has never been done before, you're going to expect some degree of failure because it was only a guess that you're going to be able to do what you're going to do. And if you're very attentive, though, to why it didn't work, then your chance of making it work the next time goes up geometrically. But some people tend to do the definition of insanity, where they do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And it can occur because the market changes or some other factor changes, but it wasn't because of their doing it better. They just kept doing it. And we tend to honor entrepreneurs with tenacity, with perseverance, who hang in the game long enough to make their business a success. But the ones who truly do succeed are taking every bad experience, every negative experience, and they are analyzing it as best they can on what should I do differently, what can I do better, how did they respond, did they understand what I said, and so yeah, I learn more by listening when I have a conversation, and I learn more by failing because I figured out what didn't work, and I add that to the things I don't want to do again, so that next time I have a higher chance of success. And there are so many different ways of doing things that I learned early in my career that I could have more failures than my lifespan would accommodate. So I study other people and what they do and try to learn from their mistakes because that's an accelerated way of learning something.
Well, and that brings to mind a couple other co-words, which is comparatives, right? If you want to chase Starbucks, how are their metrics or numbers relatable to your projections, right? And if you don't know who's in the marketplace and what they're doing and how well they're doing, that's a disadvantage. The other co-word is constructive. You're building something, and you're also constructive in your demeanor, right? Are you there and you roll up your sleeves and you go to work, or are you just hanging out, having a good time? An hour goes by, nothing changes, and it's about cost and time efficiency, cost being another co-word. Gosh, this is almost something I may never stop today with, now that we got this thing rolling. But that's the fun, is it is everything you want to make it, and how you make it and who you make it with, because sometimes you get to repeat the performance with some of the same players, right? I mean, investors, if they made a big quality investment, got a great return, they're far more receptive to the next thing that comes from you, right? Because they've got a winning average. And the other thing is, it's all about your batting average. 10 things, maybe 3 will work, but maybe those are the 3 that make it a success. And maybe the other 7 are just things we're not going to be approaching now that we've tested the market. There's so much to it. And I think when people understand the depth of value that can be achieved through working with somebody like a Karl, and now that Karl has a show, maybe 2 shows, 2 newsletters, there's a lot of availability of exposure through that and with that. I know Harvey Tuck is knocking it out of the park, and not only with his franchise show, but now his branding show. Yesterday, he picked up another sponsor, and now the sponsors are on the show. So that's another benefit. So sometimes you got to do first, second, third steps before you concern yourself with fourth, fifth, and sixth, where you come out ahead. So maybe the first three is for someone else. Get them on board, get them tight, especially if it's somebody you really want to work with, you want to learn from. I mentioned to everybody, whoever you came to work for me, it's not how much you make here, it's who you become here, because that's what you take with you. What do you learn? Who do you meet? Those are essential. Money is important, but it comes and goes. Knowledge sticks. Relationships can stick, and that can be worth more than money. So it's really being consistent in a collaboration. And what we've done today and doing so many shows is open the door to more conversations that we could have with other people. Because if we're showing that we're particular, we're discriminating, we qualify, it's not just open the door, walk in and take the money and go back to where you came from. It's like, are you up to us? And are we up to you? And that's where the co gets formed in collaboration. Final thoughts, Karl. It's been a great show. I really enjoyed the word game of co. And I'll have to maybe use that with RE for re or something else next time. Maybe we'll start with reinvention and just go into the re's words.
Yeah, we'll see how far that goes. I was just thinking, you said leadership was an important term, but it doesn't start with CEO. So I was trying to puzzle through what would be an alternative word for that.
Co-leadership.
Co-leadership. That's an excellent word. No, we've I know on this show and other shows, and I think this is, I don't know whether you originated this or Kelly did, but the phrase was, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with others. I may tag on to that. If you want to go fast and far, hire a bunch of experts. But that's another story for another day. Form a collaboration would be the right phrase there. If you want to go far and fast, form a collaboration. So yeah, good show today. I appreciate all of the discussion on collaboration, and it is very important for a small business, for you to achieve even your personal goals. You're going to be dependent upon other people doing things with you and for you, and forming those relationships and developing the skill to do that is kind of what it's all about. So go far, but that would be my closing remark.
Well, to compress it, I'll just say connect, converse, and then collaborate. So really, you got 4 co's in a small sentence there. Love the show. Always love being with Karl. I learned so much and I grow so well. And want to thank the audience for being here today. Come back tomorrow. We'll have Kelly, Jason Gerardo, and Dave Snell with us. It's always jam-packed with value. And go out and collaborate, converse, and connect with as many people as you can. And we'll see you at the Success Trail, hopefully together. So